Hello everyone, welcome to my Session 3 teaching memo. After commenting on the smiling aspect of making a presentation, I am committed to working on that today. Please let me know if I feel like I'm being phony. Summer returned here in Poughkeepsie all week. I can't believe it was 70 degrees last Wednesday and it snowed on Thursday. Spring training has begun for all of you die-hard baseball fans. I'm not a real basketball fan, so I'm just waiting for baseball to start. It looks like it could be another epic battle between the Sox and the Yanks. They're both 3-0 so far. I think for the Mets, unless their pitchers stay healthy, it will be another long year. I hope everyone enjoyed the week off and is ready to kick butt. Even though Tura was closed, I think Dr. Tom was working. So as always, I'll start off with a little housekeeping. I'm very pleased with the favorite intervention, DB. Your presentations are very professional and you are explaining your interventions clearly. That discussion board will be open for one more week. As I was informed earlier by Rita, thank you Rita, there is nothing in the rubric that says you have to make your initial post early, as in normal discussion boards. I do have one concern about duplication of interventions. If you haven't chosen one yet, make sure you browse the whole class to make sure that you're not duplicating intervention. To help with this process, please place the name of your intervention in the subject line. I've done this for several threads already. I've gone back and edited it. I've also gone back and edited a lot of web links to make them active. I showed you how to do that in an earlier teaching memo, but you highlight your link and then you click on the link icon, and then make sure you click the drop down box after you cut and paste your URL. Make sure you click the drop down box that says open in a new window. That way it won't take us out of Blackboard. It'll just take us, it'll open up a new tab. If you notice that your post has been edited, which you may also do, it is probably me making your web links live, or in some cases I embedded your video. Yes. I've graded a few of the DEJs, which are not due until March 4th on RTI, and I have one major piece of feedback to give. When you react to a quote, I want to hear your voice. There was a lot of discussion about this in the grade the DEJs, about what does it mean for a quality post, and one of the major things is I want to hear your voice. In other words, you want to emphasize what the author wrote, instead of cutting and pasting quotes, unless you really want to emphasize what the author wrote. I would avoid that. Dr. Tom doesn't like to see that because it's not telling me how you're interpreting the information, what connections you are making, what is your opinion of it. In many cases, there's information there you may not agree with. Geez, Tom, the new paradigm that was in Fisher and Fry about varying time and instruction to make learning constant, I don't agree with that. And then say why. So, a lot of it is talking about your own feelings about what you're reading, making connections to my presentations, etc., etc. So that's really what I want to see. And if you want to know what the big ideas are, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but watch my presentation. You'll get a good feel for what I think are the big ideas. So many of you mentioned that in the grade the DEJs. Also, my video does not comment directly on the Salvia, Isseldijk, and Whitmer textbook, which is the text you need to annotate. You should only have quotes from that reading in the left-hand column. Your reaction should be in the right-hand column with your connections to my presentation. The other readings or some other pertinent material. You can use citations, but you don't need a reference list. I am looking for you to have a conversation with the text, so write in a conversational style rather than a note-taking one. And a note-taking one is just pretty much paraphrasing. This person said this, Cohen and Spencer said this, Fisher and Fry said this, and similar to what Fisher and Fry said, without even saying what Fisher and Fry said. So if you're going to make a connection, show me that you actually read that connection, and don't just make a general connection as was said in Dr. Tom's presentation. That doesn't really tell me you watched my presentation. Okay, some big ideas of the last session, the favorite interventions and response to intervention. As I mentioned, I'm excited about the favorite intervention videos and the interactions. I wanted to mention Class Pass, which was done by a couple of people in 64020 section. In the past, when this was shared, others have been inspired to chime in with activity breaks and doodling to calm students and integrate both halves of the brains. This led to the sharing of Doodle Notes, Go Doodle website, and the Colorado Initiative's Take a Break Handbook. Those links you can find in the written portion of this teaching memo in the text version. I would recommend you check these out. This is what I love about this discussion board, is it becomes much more than just individual interventions that you explain. Response to intervention is one of the most important topics covered in special education portion of this course, and I think it's one of the most misunderstood topics, even in schools throughout the country. And you'll hear me talk about remediation versus RTI. Many people, and even the discussions I've heard so far, is that, oh yeah, we do RTI. After school, students come in and we go over this and we go over that and we go over this. Never mentioning using an intervention, just giving extra help. That is not response to intervention, and if your school is doing that, then stop calling it that. It's okay to do it, but it's just plain old school remediation. The big ideas that I think you should talk about is understanding the process from the 7 basic assumptions that they make in Salvia et al., universal screening, research-based classroom curriculum, intervention fidelity and integrity. I think there's a question about that on the quiz. Progress monitoring through the use of curriculum-based measurements, rate of improvement, gap analysis, frequency versus specificity, and progression through the 3 tiers of the interventions. So those are the big ideas of RTI. So you should have those in your DEJ. As you can see, not all the resources on Intervention Central are research-based interventions. I haven't seen anybody do one on Intervention Hero or the What Works Clearinghouse yet, but just remember that those are also options that you have. Keep in mind that if you intend to use any of the strategies in an RTI, your strategy has to be research-based and implement it with fidelity, exactly the way it's outlined in the research. And they talk about that in Cohen and Spencer, and I know they talk about it in Salvia et al. You know, doing it with integrity, the way it's described in the research. It's okay to go off and modify it for your own classroom, but it really isn't something that you can say, go to the RTI team and say, hey, I used a research-based intervention. Yeah, I modified it a little. Okay, then it's not research-based anymore. So keep that in mind. This semester, the DEJ's discussion board was an enormous surprise with the amount and quality of the conversation. Normally, I've just seen comments, the way things were graded. Oh yeah, you graded this well, I agreed with you there. I was a little bit tougher on this one, etc., etc. This one, you guys, went off and added so much quality to this conversation that I decided to, a little bit late in the session, but I decided to add a teaching memo post, which I'd never done for this grade, the DEJ's activity. I talk about some of the discussion that broke out. Giving feedback was one, and I shared a Wiggins article Then Heather shared an Edutopia article by Stenger on the same topic. Too often we are timid about giving supportive feedback. I call it supportive feedback, so you're not hammering somebody over the head. That will help improve performance. And we tend to make nice, positive comments, which don't usually tell us what we did well and where we need to improve. So we will be giving each other feedback again when we create our select response tests. So I would recommend reading both of those articles. This enthusiasm for discussing the rubric and going beyond led me to add a teaching memo post, as I stated, and asking for your help in improving the rubric. I received several comments asking me to leave it alone and thought it was pretty clear. Thank you for that. And others wondered if I should include spelling and grammar. Shantae went so far as to include a revised rubric with a third quality called mechanics. She borrowed the category from a rubric she found online, so I'm giving you a little beware, danger, Will Robinson, that when you borrow rubrics from online, they're not always specific and measurable and clear. They have, and this rubric was like that. It had descriptors like many, some, spelling errors, grammar errors. You can see that that can be very subjective. In adding numbers is also has a tendency to limit somebody. There were only 2 errors. Oh, I can make 2 errors and that's okay. So you got to be careful about that. In section 6421, I learned that Danielle went to SUNY Albany, where my rubric guru teacher, Heidi Andrade, and I shared what I think is a great rubric creation article. Again, you can click on it in the text portion of the this teaching memo. You all should check it out as well. It combines rubric creation, a great rubric creation activity with students, and peer assessment. So thanks for all your help. I'm going to test out a new rubric next semester that divides quality. I'm going to take that one aspect of quality and divide it into writing style, conversational tone, and making connections. So many of you want to know, what is a conversational style? And a lot of it is talking in a way as if you're having a conversation with the text. And to me, that means making opinion. I thought I agreed with this. It's like you're having a discussion with the author. You know, I agree with this because. I don't think that's a very good idea at all, because. And so you can see that, you know, wonderings are okay, asking questions, but you also need to answer them. I used to have some person, that's all she did was that, oh, I wonder about this, I wonder about that. Didn't tell me anything, didn't show me any way that she understood or he understood what they were reading. A lot of questions, no answers. So if you're going to ask questions, you know, make sure you answer them. So thank you for your help. Great job in this discussion board. Best one I've had. You folks did an outstanding job with your comments and the additions you made. So that's it for this part of the teaching memo. Make sure you check into the assignment video, which will be on the assignment folder page.